3 shots, 4 par, I just do 2. 1 putt, par 4, birdie, woohoo. New driver, info, replace, M2, par 5, fairway, what you fin do? Think I'll try to get on into, start right, good line, good view, it drew, shoot him, McGavin, 2 thumbs, that's up.
You'll be able to have a much larger and workable green. Like I know 14 right now is a nightmare. You've got about 15 to 20 feet wide of elevation change of what, 1.5 feet, 2 feet.
Yeah.
So
I three-putted my last
there
round,
still,
so yeah. I three-putted my last round. I went birdie, and then I three-putted for a 6 the other day. So
remember that bomb I dropped when I was playing with you, Mac, for 3 down the ridge?
Yeah. It's like sometimes like the pin will be in a spot where it just kind of like funnels in, but I don't know, that green, man. I've hit so many. So I usually go up the left side, Mac, like up 15. Up 15. So
you'll play that fairway?
I don't cheat. That's not cheating. It's the Bryson theory, man. It's the creative golfer in me. It's not OB. It's not OB. But on the second shot though, you can have some, like, usually I'm just in the fairway there, kind of collects in the bottom, like where you hit in the exact same spot that you hit your 15th tee shot, and then so I usually am hitting like a 6-iron or something in, and it's like hard to hold that green. So then if you don't make it all the way there, there's like a big tree in the way, or sometimes like if you're hitting from the left side onto that, like I've dropped it like 10 yards before the pin or something like that, or like just on the front of the green, and it's rolled right off the other side, which would be flip it around front to back. But if I'm playing it backwards, so it's tough. But we can get into it a little bit, but we just roll right off the hop, man. Are you cool to just jump right into it? We
absolutely.
We got a bunch of Instagram questions and stuff from our friends over at Fort Hope. So there'll be a few, but
that's awesome.
But we got Mac Baker, Golf Shape Development. So we've had Casey from the Real Turf crew in the past, but this is only our second ever pod. Bryce wasn't at that one. Bryce, I think you were playing playoffs or something like that. But this will only be our second pod where we've talked about like the management of golf course and like, which is really, really cool for us. This is episode number 136. So this is pretty new to us. So it's definitely a cool one to have. We've had more Macs on the podcast than we have guys to talk about.
There's been a few Macs.
There's like 3 or 4 now. Then we and me, and then we've had more Macs than we have people to kind of talk about like the development of the golf course and the maintenance of it. So we're excited to have you here, buddy.
It's a great name, and I think there's like some Scottish, some Irish background. So we'll say it's a golf name.
It definitely is. So I don't know, the golf games, and it's in a tough spot right now. So, but I don't know. It's okay. It's all right. It's been all right, but I had a good round the other day, and then I walked up to like the 14th tee, and I was like saying this to my buddy Sean, and I was like, oh, if I par out, I'll shoot 75 or something. I was like, that's like one of my better rounds here. And I clipped the tree on the right of the 15th tee. Because I'm playing like a bit of a cut now. I have this nice little cut now, and I clipped the tree, and I was like, God damn! And then it got worse from there. It got like much worse from there, and then I just settled in wherever it was. But enough about the game, Mac. Maybe you can give us an idea just who you are, kind of what you do, Golf Shape Development, kind of just all in one little spiel, and then we can kind of jump right into it.
Yeah. My name is Mackenzie Baker. Been working for Golf Shape now for about 5 years. My boss has been doing it for just over 25 years, since kind of 1994. Started off because he was a professor for like water flow, water table management, that sort of thing. Then got into golf management, then became an architect, and has been building courses ever since. He's actually my uncle, so bit of a family business kind of going on there. I've loved golf ever since I was, 5 years old. Thought it'd be pretty cool to, build some courses. We've kind of been all around Kingston, GTA, Muskoka region, building courses kind of all over. So yeah, that's kind of pretty brief.
So does building courses change your game at all? Like the way you look at the course, because how long did you say you've been into it now?
About 5 years.
So if you've been playing, like you said, you've been playing for like a little while, does it change how you look at like your golf game and how you approach a course at all, just knowing a little bit more than the average golfer might about the course itself?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing, and I could just kind of touch on it. I've come to use the word elevation more than anything. And I think that's the biggest thing that kind of gives me I don't know, I guess an edge is I've come to work with them so much and to understand, percentages of slope and that sort of thing. And understanding, if you've got a backdrop on a green, or if you've got, take 15, for example, you've got that flat fairway coming out, but then you've got, gosh, I don't even know what that would be, 13 feet of elevation change from your right fairway down to your left, at least, right? So understanding that even if I hit a cutting shot into that slope, I know it's going left. So yeah, it's going to make me think about the elevation a lot more. But otherwise, I mean, golf is golf. Sometimes it's a hope and a prayer, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, being able to see where elevation can change and, I'm coming uphill a lot. That's probably the biggest thing for me.
I feel like it'd be useful on the greens too. Like you said, you got used to the slope, even if it's 1%, 2%. I bet you can see that a lot more than your kind of average Joe on the golf course.
Absolutely, because 1% looks like nothing. You're standing on a green. I might be looking at 6% slope, and you're not going to know it over 10 feet, 20 feet. You're never going to know that you're standing on that. But like seeing guys roll greens just to like test cups and that sort of thing, understanding how things are going to move, even if it is 0.5% of slope, you're going to see a difference. One of the biggest things is like when you're building a green, one of the main things you're thinking about is pinnable locations, right? So if I'm going to put a pin 10 feet away from a slope that's, I don't know, 5% pushing left, well, I know I have the ability to bank something around because it's going to naturally want to move that way.
And you guys think about that when you build, right? Like you just said, like you guys will, when you're building greens, you'll say like, all right, let's knock this slope down maybe a bit because you can't put a pin here, or vice versa.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. Or even so in like the sense of hazards, whether it's a pond, whether it's a bunker. Oh, if I put this bunker, more tucked to the right, but then I tail my green off to the left, well, I can put a pin up over on the right, and I'm going to get Johnny going for that pin every day of the week, and he's going to be in that bunker every day of the week.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I can kind of. That's
can
sort of what's going on. Yeah,
pins and stuff like that. Absolutely.
I feel like that's awesome
builder, but
yeah, I feel like that's awesome because you kind of have full reign and you can do what you want. But like when people are playing the golf course, I don't think they really think about that whatsoever. Like this guy built this green in this bunker on purpose for this specific reason when he's in the bunker short 10 yards or whatever.
Absolutely. No, don't take it too far in the world of we have free reign, because majority of the time, we're being reined in. We want to make things challenging. We want to make things hard. We're not here to, build an easy course for you to walk in and feel great walking away from.
That's what I was going to ask you.
The goal of this is to make this hard.
That's what I was going to ask you, Mac.
Reined in.
Are you connecting like with the soups like throughout the process, or like when? So you said your uncle's like an engineer. So can you maybe explain like just like the inception of, we're changing hole 15 or whatever it is, or if you're building a course, if you approach it differently, whatever it may be, or you're redeveloping a hole, and then are you connecting like with the soups as you go, or general managers or anything like that along the way, or is that all established up front and you kind of build from there? Like you said, you don't have free reign, so kind of who's knocking you guys back at that point?
Every scenario is going to be different, right? You look at, like you kind of mentioned, whether it's a new build or whether this is a renovation, right? And things that kind of dictate that are going to be, one, personnel. So that's, your super, your GM, whoever that might be. The other thing is going to be like the ground, the nature, the environment. That's all going to determine the ability of, shape, layout, elevation change, slopes. Obviously you can change that, but there's always going to be things to consider. But throughout the process, you're going to be talking with the super, talking with the GM right from the get-go. Sometimes it's going to be different. Some GMs don't want to be involved in that construction process. They say, you know, this is your job. You know what you're doing. You've been doing this for 25 years. Go ahead. Or, you know, you have somebody who's hands-on and wants to be involved, but it's always going to be different. And I mean, most times it's not the superintendent. Most times.
Cost has got to be a big factor too, no?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking the biggest, like, right? I'm just thinking like if they give you free reign and you kind of dig up this much elevation, it's going to cost X amount more than if you dig up 2 feet of elevation, you know? So
yeah, absolutely. Especially in like the scenario of 14, right? We're pushing that back, 75, 85 yards.
Right.
But you step into that valley there and you've got 20 feet that's changing from your top end to your low end.
Right.
And, you know, you have to be willing to either work with that or know that you have to make a change somewhere else on that hole. In the example of 14, they know they're changing that fairway. So you can say, okay, we're going to build this green, but we're going to leave the rest of this untouched until the end of the year. We're going to make this change.
Quick break from the pod. Mac here from Manscaped, introducing the Beard Hedger from our friends over at Manscaped. With 20 different lengths, you can look good from the cart path to the clubhouse. Shop manscaped.com using the promo code OTSGolf for 20% off plus free shipping. Shop any and all Manscaped products at manscaped.com using the promo code OTSGolf for 20% off plus free shipping. We'll see you on the back nine. Okay, so for anybody listening that doesn't know Port Hope, like I post it quite a bit. It's the course that I play at, so it's in shorter par 5 right now. It's like an elevated tee block that goes down. I don't want to use too many numbers, but you go down like 30 feet or so, and then you come back up to like a landing zone. I was saying I played up the 15th hole, which is the adjacent hole that runs right back. They run, parallel to one another. And then again from that landing zone, if you're with me still here, where you're hitting your tee shot, it goes down again. And you can kind of catch a shoot that bends up to the left where the green is. So from that point, you probably have 170 or so in, a little bit less from there. And then it's tree lined on the left-hand side. Anything right falls completely away. Like I hit a bit of a draw as a lefty, and I've like hit the front right of the green and rolled OB before in the middle of the summer. Like it just comes off right, like, falls off completely to the right. So I think that's where Mac, when some of like our members are stopping by and checking in with you and asking you, it's because they know that slope to the right hand side is so severe that falls down. There's train tracks on the right. So that's what everybody's kind of wondering is like, how do you kind of pin that up? How do you build that up and make it so you're not just going to keep sort of running into that, or if you're trying to like, I don't know. It's one of those things. You're gonna have to hit a layup. It's not if it's gonna be 570 yards or so. You're not gonna be able to go for that into. It's gonna be real. Maybe Bryce, but
yeah. I mean, with this specific example, the plan is to alter that fairway. The plan is to have quite a narrow shoot. That's gonna be an option for you to get in there.
Right.
If you can smoke that 3-wood, hit it on a rope, hit something that's going to be able to release into that green, yeah, you're going to have a small 6, maybe 8-foot window to do so. Otherwise, yeah, that right side is punishment right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, that is going to change. Like that entire fairway for like 150 yards prior to that green, that's coming down 3 to 5 feet. Okay. So you're that like think about 150 yards, 3 feet of soil. That's a lot of mass.
A lot of dirt.
Yeah.
Right. So you're gonna be gaining a lot of mass from that. But yeah.
So is some of that soil going to be
change?
Is it going to be shifted onto the right hand side and like brought up closer to the front right of the green, or like just short of the front right of the green?
Yeah, probably about no, it's probably too much. Like 20 yards.
Okay. Like all right. Yeah. So it's definitely going to be an interesting hole. So it's something.
It's going to be a 3-shot hole for sure.
Yeah.
Without question.
Yeah.
Any work going on with it?
In an ideal world, we'll have a bit of a rollback coming back to the middle of the fairway, coming from those tracks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. That's, I think, what people are kind of asking is like, will there be a bit of a, Yeah, a bit of a safety net there almost, right? So I think it'd be really cool to see. And you mentioned that you've done some other projects like in the area. Can we talk about some of your past projects in the last couple of years, maybe that you've worked on, or even if some of the ones that that Golf Shape Development has worked on, you know, in I assume you're mainly in Ontario in this area here?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All work has remained in Ontario. There's been some like small design work, but that's not necessarily our realm of things. Most recent, Bloomington Downs, full T-deck renovation on the back 9, whole lot of drainage work. Other T-decks kind of stripped, you know, they didn't have the proper materials in there. Other top mentions, did the design at Black Diamond.
Nice.
Mill Run. We did the new 9 and practice range there. North Granite Ridge, full build. The Highland, Piper's Glen. Bunker Hill, new course, 12-hole course. Kind of designed for that businessman, you know. If he wants to get out 6 holes, if that's all he has time to play, then, you know, go play 6. The loop is kind of designed for that, to just play, you know, 3 hours worth of golf. 2 hours worth of golf.
Some of the guys that I work with that go and play that quite a bit, and I like 12 holes. Like, I think 12 holes is kind of nice. It's not too far from where you grew up there, Bryce. It would be, well, it's not too far from Cherry, I don't think.
No, it's just off of like Highway 7 and 407, like almost that like Pickering Go extension area. I believe like the small town is called Kinsale. But other than that, honorable mentions, Osler Brook. That's a pretty big track up in Collingwood area. Yeah, you guys would find that to be a treat. Other big working items like Montera up in Collingwood, Laura Bay, small amount of work at Georgian Bay Club. So, yeah.
Nice. Okay, so I want to pick out something that you said. You did the full T-deck renovation, and you said that they didn't have some of the materials. So what would that look like to, well, Bryce and I, who don't understand what some of those materials are?
Well, I'm gonna pitch in real quick before you answer this. Do you guys do everything, or do you sub anything out? Like, do you do drainage, excavation? You do everything?
Majority of everything. Yeah, everything from irrigation, smaller time excavation. We use a company out of Peterborough area, Connell's Construction. They'll do like our mass moving of soil, you know, that massive excavator that you see out in the front of Port Hope. Yeah, that big boy, that's theirs.
There's some big machines out there right now, man.
You need them, man.
Yeah. That bulldozer that on your way in the driveway right now, that's theirs. So in terms of like moving some big material, yeah, we sub that out to them. We've been working with them for a long time. My boss has a relationship with this guy, oh my goodness, Bill, and yeah, they'll keep that going until they both decide to quit.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mac, you might want to repeat your question.
No, so like on the T-decks and stuff, when you're doing like a full tear down of the T-decks and full like redevelopment, what are some of the materials? Like, you reference materials, they didn't have some. What would some of those things be?
Anything from just like your subgrade. So it's going to be lack of drainage, lack of ability for water to penetrate through that T-deck. Your irrigation, you know, things are probably out of date. Somebody just wants to change their guts that's underneath there, their ability to keep it drier, keep it wetter. And then, yeah, just changing out that, you know, foot to a foot and a half of material that's underneath your sod.
I think it's just one of those things, like, we kind of walk on the golf course and we just assume like it was always there. In Port Hope's case, it was kind of always has been there. It's been there for like 130 years or so. It's an old track. But do you find, Mac, when you're working with like different courses, like, I don't know who the builder was at Port Hope, but, you know, we were talking about Oshawa recently because they just had like the Canadian Open qualifier, and a couple of my friends were out at Kawartha, and, you know, so there's Stanley designs, like Stanley Thompson designs. Do you, when you guys like start kind of working on some of those with maybe you know, some of the bigger developers like in the area that have developed courses, you know, North America anyway. Are you trying to, you know, stick with some of those bones? Like I assume there'd be a lot of engineering that would go into that. Are you trying to follow some of those bones? Are you trying to kind of, you know, even with Port Hope, are you trying to stick with like the layout and how it was first built and try to not disrupt kind of like the flow of the course that you go to, or do you find like GMs or whoever is looking to get the work done, are they trying to like modernize a lot of these courses?
Yeah, it's a good question because it's going to be so subjective to the course, like, and subjective to the builder, right? Some guy's going to want to go in there and throw his touch on things. Like you said, he wants to modernize it. He wants to put his spin on it as a builder, as a designer, as an architect. Yeah, it's definitely a fine line because a lot of guys want to keep that history in mind, right?
Yeah.
You look at a course and you know, I'll use Casey as that example. Stanley Thompson, 1929, I believe it was. In his case, in 29, he was building the Briars.
Yeah.
At the same time, right? So he was building this kind of icon, this little spectacle. But in his off time, he was coming and working on this other course. People want to make changes. People see flaws in design over the years, right? But some people want to change that. They don't even want to leave that showing, leave an element, you know, Stanley Thompson, elevated green, really strong tapers, right?
Yeah.
Some people just want to get rid of that, change it. I don't want to see it, make it more likable by today's golfer.
Yeah, because we've seen a lot of that.
Yeah,
in like today's world, we've seen, I think in the last few years, there's been a lot of accommodating to the like everyday recreational golfer, right? So I guess
they're tearing out cherry right now.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's changing. If that's changing a lot of the opinions of like general managers and stuff that you guys might contact or be in contact with or get contacted by, right?
Yeah. So like, for example, last year doing the T-deck renovation, they wanted to add elevation, they wanted to add steps, they wanted to add retaining walls. You know, some of those things are just flair. Some of those things just add, you know, that curb appeal from the road. Getting a nice stone retaining wall to hold in you know, that's some of those things that make you want to come back.
Yeah.
So for an example like that, a lot of it was kind of aesthetic, make it modern, make it look good. Other times they want to keep that history, especially in cases of somebody that's got a links course. They're going to want to keep that style, right? So it's subjective. It's always going to change.
We do have a bunch of IG questions. I was telling Brycer for this one, which is really cool. But before we jump into those, can we talk about any future stuff that you guys have coming up, future work?
Yeah. Some of it's I'd love to talk about it. We have some contacts about a job that's presenting in Africa, South Africa right now.
Really? Wow. Okay.
And we're kind of spending some time to do some research just because of obviously some soil and you know, different material options.
That's pretty cool.
So we're doing some traveling to try and understand some of those bases and how to grow on some of these big sand pits. But that could be a pretty big option. Other than that, we're looking at some places out east, Kingston way. That's going to be, I think, a move for us.
Yeah, that's a whole new ball game going down to Africa. Like you said, different soil, different sun, even different temperatures. Like that's not an easy transition.
Different grass.
Yeah, that's insane. That's cool.
Yeah, that's got to be like just I don't know. It's got to be pretty crazy, but
I mean, it's a whole different animal.
Yeah,
it's completely.
Well, just in terms of as something as simple as grass, right? Like we're able to grow certain types of grasses out here. Casey would be able to talk about this more. But out there, we're not going to have the same subculture in the ground.
Yeah.
That grass that we would water in a certain way or treat a certain way with fertilizers or sprays, you know, that's not going to be the same case. So there is a bit of a learning curve looking at it at kind of face value right now. So it's pretty preliminary, but it's been in the works for a little bit.
There's a ton of golfers coming out of South Africa right now too, man. Like Zenenhout, I think, is South African. Garrick Higo. Obviously, there's like Gary Player and stuff like Ernest and whatnot, but like they've been around a while. But there's a lot of young talent, man. So that'd be a really cool experience. I guess that'd be kind of I feel like as a developer or builder, that'd be a bucket list thing. All right, we got a couple of questions.
Wasn't Ryan Gregnell saying one of the new long drivers is from South Africa?
Yeah, I think so.
I think
you're right.
Said that younger kid is South African.
One of the things I will say, just kind of referring back to that, like 9-hole, 12-hole, golf is changing. People can't allocate the same amount of time, that we always have to golf. They are looking at that kind of like 12-hole option.
Yeah.
And, it might sound a little silly at first, but I think if it's going to be something that can get people into the game and, moving around, finding it enjoyable in a smaller dose, then give them the option.
I think 12 holes could catch on. Yeah, I think 12 holes could definitely catch on. And
I just can't. I can't imagine it's going to take over because there's guys like me who want to play more than 18.
Yeah,
of course. No way 12 holes
absolutely
takes over the 18 hole.
No, I think that's just it's kind of been there for so long, right? It's like
I think you could be surprised.
I'm sure I could be.
How hard is it to get the land? How hard is it for somebody to find the ability to build a new course? How often are you seeing courses being sold for
you're
housing,
totally right? Totally.
So I think the only way that golf is going to move forward in terms of new builds is going to be those smaller land plots that are only offering 6, 9, 12.
Yeah, and it's kind of more of like a social thing then, right? You kind of go out and
I think so. It'll become more of that like country club. This is my place. This is my group. This is my town. This is my thing.
I could see that. It might take, years.
I think it's going to be a while. Yeah, it's going to be a long time.
Corey was saying, so anybody still with us at this point, Corey, the GM over at Port Hope, was saying that the threshold, this is the furthest south that they can build now, like the developers that are kind of taking up some of the space, like we lost the range and stuff there. So I guess it'll always be, until they decide to make it something else, a public park or whatever it is, it'll always be a golf course. It'll always be green space, which is kind of cool. Let's get into them though. We got a couple here, if you don't mind us asking. I like this one. How does someone, I won't get into the names, we got a few and they're mostly Port Hope guys, but how does somebody get into golf development? So like I would like to add on to that, like, educational, like when they're going to school, like what would be a way that somebody would, kind of forge that career path?
I think one of the big options is going to be that kind of golf management program.
Yep.
I think they do stem into kind of more of the geographical side of things. And I don't think they touch on like the construction side of things, but if you can understand water flow, and I think that's going to be the opportunity to get into that. Shaping the ground is going to be a part of that geographical side of things, and understanding maps, understanding elevations, and that's kind of your realm. Unless you're gonna, get in line with a golf course so that you get introduced to a builder. I don't really see another option. There's not
turf management courses in college and university too. I think you can go that route as well, like learn about the grass and the different soils and how that works, and then you can kind of jump from there, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely. I just don't know if it touches on kind of that building side of things. I know it's more of the maintenance and, understanding how these subcultures of grass and soil and that sort of thing, but I don't believe it talks too much about the construction side of things.
Yeah, there would definitely be like an engineering an engineering portion of that you would have to have like a background if you wanted
engineering, architecture.
Yeah, absolutely. If you wanted to kind of build a course or build a development, firm like you guys have, right? So, what's something that always gives you a headache on the course? I like this one. This could be just a golf question, or this could be like from the building aspect or the development aspect.
bare spots, probably.
Yeah, I'm thinking like giant boulders and stuff under the ground or something. I don't know.
Well, when you have those big machines, boulders aren't an issue.
Yeah, I guess not, right?
No. And like, honestly, I feel bad for the guys that I make rock pick, but we spend a lot of time picking rocks.
Yeah, I guess so.
The last thing you want walking into a bunker is breaking your sand wedge. Yeah. The last thing you want diving into the rough is finding a boulder. Mm-hmm. You know, so yeah, you got to be pulling boulders. There's a lot of times you're doing that, but I think my biggest pet peeve is bare spots. You know, you got a huge little divot. How long does it take you to fill it? Throw some seed on it.
Yeah. My buddy Corey was in one the other day, and he's kind of like the king of the preferred lie. So he was like, "Do I get a drop here?" And he's funny, man. So like, I don't think that's a rule, Corey. That's unfortunately not a rule, but it is one of those things where like you hit one in the fairway finally, and you find yourself in a divot. That is kind of tough. It's probably kind of annoying too when like we all come up to you and talk to you all the time, all day, all the members, just constantly, all day, just like, what are you guys doing with this hole? And you just have to repeat yourself over and over again all day. You almost need like a sign, probably.
Yeah, honestly, it doesn't happen too often. A lot of people just kind of want to say hello.
Yeah,
they just want to say, "Oh, so like, what are you doing?" Like,
and have a look.
What's kind of the process? Oh, it's looking good. Most people just want to say, "Hey, it's looking good."
Yeah. Hey, now we have a reference point to send them to. They can come over here at OTS Golf over on Instagram, and they can listen to the pod.
Give all the details.
Yeah, you can say, "Hey, you know what? We did a podcast just for this. You can go check it out." What's something players or members always assume is easy in the development portion or the development world that is not? So that's kind of like, sort of, we just kind of touched on that, but you know, for somebody like me or Bryce kind of coming up to you and we're talking to you, is there something that typically like the average person would just think is easy for you guys to do that is definitely not for you?
Probably I'd say probably two things. One would be the irrigation. Oh, you just gotta throw some pipe in the ground, get some water on it, right?
Right.
But one of the biggest things is making it look good after putting all that irrigation in. Usually when you're doing that, you have to get kind of past water freeze lines, your frost line on certain courses, depending if people are blowing it out or not. But you're pulling up rocks, you're pulling up sticks, you're pulling up clay. So then you're spending how much time just to get rid of that stuff so that you have good topsoil to grow grass? Like we spent 24 hours irrigation cleanup just for one green.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, just for 4 hours on a machine that digs a trench and puts a pipe in the ground, we're then spending 3-4 times that just to clean it up and make it look like we did prior to that. And then the other would be like, well, can't you just put sod on that? Can't you just sod that? Yeah. And you can throw sod on anything and somebody can, work at making it look smooth and continuous. But the guys that make it look good and the guys that make it look kind of seamless, they're spending a lot of time raking. They're spending a lot of time matching elevation over 4 feet, over 10 feet, over 8 feet, just to make things, one, easy to cut for the guy who's spending weeks cutting it, or the guys that are having to maintain it.
All right. Have you ever found anything buried in the ground? There's got to be something.
Yeah.
Bryce and I were talking about this before you came on, and we were saying like a track like Port Hope, there might be like a super old golf ball or something.
Well, I work construction, and I found a chicken bone in a wall one time. Like some guy was eating while they built the house and just left it in the wall.
Yeah. I mean, some of the crazy things we'll come across is just like a lot of pipe, a lot of steel pipe, a lot of brick from developments, and people were like, okay, that's a 3-foot chunk of concrete that we're just gonna bury in the middle of a hill. But probably the craziest thing was just like an old like ammo case, empty, nothing in it, but just steel ammo case. We kind of busted it up with a excavator bucket and yeah, nothing in it.
Mac here for BioSteel. We absolutely love this one on the pod. The hydration mix has been in our golf bags forever. The hydration mix has been designed in the most natural way possible to help you stay hydrated throughout your round of golf. Zero sugar formula is made from clean, quality ingredients and contains no artificial flavors and colors, added vitamins and minerals to help support overall good health, normal function of your golf swing, and your immune system. Simply mix it into some water, and you can enjoy it through all 18 holes. Clean, healthy hydration. Zero sugar, natural health product, no artificial flavors or colors, no artificial sweeteners, no preservatives, caffeine-free, NSF certified for sport. Biosteel.ca, biosteel.com. Use the promo code SCREWS30 for 30% off your order. SCREWS30 for 30% off your order.
All right, Mac, what's
Stay
your
hydrated, my
favorite
friends.
part of the job?
Favorite part of the job?
When
I'd
it's
say
done?
kind of like sometimes.
Yeah, I guess
depending
so.
on like how the job kind of goes, it can be, tailoring on. Oh, perfect.
We had a little phone fall there.
Yeah.
That's all right. We're good now. But like, I figured like it's kind of like roofing or anything like that. Any construction, Bryce, you'd be familiar with that. Like middle of the summer, stuff like that. It'd be nice to just go home, but like, yeah, there's got to be like rewarding aspects of the job, of the career itself too, though.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of the kind of finish shaping. After the bulldozer finishes off.
Yeah.
They're gonna leave a lot of the finish slope there, but getting that thing to look good, it takes a little finesse, adding topsoil, changing elevations, getting things to be continuous. That's kind of when things really start to take shape, and you can really see kind of how things are going to finish up. So I'd say like moving in that topsoil, that's when things really start to feel good, and you're like, okay, now we can start to see where things are going to require some work.
How much material you got to bring in? I'm talking for 14 here. How much are you guys bringing in? A bunch, or are you kind of reusing material?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, Port Hope's a little different since that housing development is right out front, because so much of that topsoil came from the original, that would have been 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Those old.
There was 4 holes there, yeah.
4 holes there. So all that topsoil was essentially owned by whoever owned that land through Port Hope Golf Course. Okay. So that was allocated for use for the course. So.
Oh, nice. So it's all on site.
Yeah, to an extent. So just an example for like a green, you bring in a certain type of material for the green itself. So we've got about a foot of what's called greens mix. It's a mixture of essentially 3 different products. But just for that was 13 to 15 triaxles, like dump trucks, which carry about 22 yards. So you're just over 300 yards of this greens mix just into the green itself.
Which, for people who don't know how much a yard is, it's a lot of dirt.
Yeah, it's a full pickup truck. It'd be like 300 pickup trucks.
Yeah, 4 feet by 4 feet at about 3 feet thick.
That's crazy.
A lot of dirt.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Times that by 300 and something.
Fill up my Silverado, top it off so it's got a nice cone on top, and then drive 300 of those things into the green. That's wild.
And then you can just lay sod on the green. That's it.
Damn. It's easy. It sounds easy, man. You just need 300 pickup trucks, but kind of
sometimes like there's permits involved with that. You start moving X amount of earth into an area, you're spending years getting a permit. Like, just for example, all those new holes on water side, train track side.
It's got to be a nightmare.
It was 2 years before we got a shovel in the ground.
Yeah.
You know.
So you guys did a lot of the work at Port Hope?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
all
what were the
7 new holes over there?
Yeah, so what were the 7 new holes? And like obviously we don't have to get like, might have to have you back to talk about those. That's that's definitely a cool topic. But
Absolutely.
what were the new 7 holes? So back in 2021 or 2020, everybody knows like the course was shut down to 12 holes. So if you can kind of give us an idea of what that was, what holes you guys were working on and what type of work you did.
Yeah, so it was on a unassumed land, full design, full build, everything from drainage, irrigation, fairways, tee decks, permits just to be over there working. So based on the number layout you have now, what you go 1, 2, 3, and then 4, you're on the other side of the train tracks, right?
Yep.
So yeah, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
10.
I guess that's 10, and then you go to 11s on the other side of the tracks again, right?
Yeah.
So there you go, 4 to 10. Those are all new build over there.
Yeah.
So removing trees, building ponds, working with elevation change to find a spot for a cart path, find green sites, find tee deck sites, overlap. You know, there's a lot that goes on to mapping out a new site.
That's so wild, man. So how do you guys combat the erosion like on number 9? Like that's obviously like something that, like, would you guys have an idea of that happening? Like, I don't know exactly like how much land is being lost or like how long that'll take until that kind of like washes away. But do you guys like have an idea of that happening before you kind of build that green, build onto that space?
I mean, there has to be studies done to understand kind of rate of how things are moving, how fast, you know, essentially that's gonna erode away, right? So bringing in engineers to understand that is definitely part of the process before any building can even happen. That essentially determines our elevations, determines our widths, determines heights and that sort of thing. But yeah, sometimes you have to be then making changes to that hole because things have changed based on, you know, unforeseen circumstances or factors that weren't necessarily accounted for or couldn't have been accounted for.
Yeah, because I imagine that would be like something you can't really predict. I guess you could find like studies and stuff, or like, you know, there's got to be somebody who would work directly with that type of thing. But that cliff is huge. Like that's massive, right? So like
runs for kilometers. Yeah.
I mean, if permits are getting approved, someone had to have looked at it.
Yeah.
You know? That's kind of how I think about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, before we let go, I think we got all the questions. So if anybody submits one after the fact, I put up the story a few hours later. So sorry if we missed any, but or a few hours. We're recording a few hours later. So can you kind of walk us through like the so say let's use hole number 14 because that's the one that we've been discussing a little bit. Can you walk us through like the process of how that conversation first starts, where they probably get connected with, I assume it's your uncle, how you guys go about permits, and then all the next kind of stages into kind of building that and where things flow? Like I know we've talked about how the hole is kind of built and different things that are moved and whatnot, but can you talk like maybe about it more in stages for somebody like myself or anybody listening to the pod right now that might not kind of have an idea of how that hole is structured or restructured or built?
Yeah, so essentially the whole idea for 14 that started years ago. Okay. So when the extension happened, the new renovation, new 7 holes, there was plans for green renovations, bunker renovations, other renovations to occur at a later date. That date wasn't decided on. Money, timing, all those things come into factor for that decision. In terms of 14, obviously the goal was to lengthen the hole, add a green that gave you a more playable space, more pinnable locations, more putting surface. So from the get-go, it's then understanding the land that's behind you, right? We're trying to add length, so the only way to go is behind the original green.
Right.
Obviously, looking at layout of owned land, you know, understanding parameters of work zones,
property
you know,
lines.
whether,
yeah,
absolutely. That's going to be the biggest thing. Next is then kind of clearing that area. In the scenario of not moving too much soil, too much earth into that area, didn't require a permit for that build. So then that kind of is avoided. Obviously, there's goals and details that ownership wants met, whether that's parameters of making it harder, making it more challenging, making it, you know, more pinnable locations. Those are then going to be kind of considered. Then obviously tree clearing happens. There was a whole bunch of stuff back in there, machines brought in to then make that kind of ground workable, something that you can bring material in on top of. And then kind of understanding where hazards might lay, elevations that are going to push towards the green, away from the green. How can we utilize those to work with what's here without changing things too much? And then, yeah, bringing in the people that can kind of facilitate those needs and wants by the ownership.
So do you guys just kind of like go with the flow? Like obviously there's gotta, like you'd be able to get like an aerial view. I assume you probably just like throw a drone up, have a look at like the area and whatnot. But like as you start to move out materials like trees and stuff like that, you're gonna run into things that maybe you didn't see. Like if you're going 70 yards back into the forest, like so you
Absolutely.
it's just constantly like moving like with the ebbs and flows, and you're just trying to like, you know, reshape as you go. That's pretty common.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be like the ability to kind of adapt on the fly. Obviously, there's plans put into place, but as you like in the scenario of clearing trees out, there might be 4 feet of change that you didn't account for. That's going to adjust soil numbers. That's going to adjust money. That's going to adjust timeline.
Right.
So yeah, you have to be willing to adapt, but there's always, you know, AutoCAD drawings that show width, show elevations, and you know we're kind of adhering to.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And you can always, like, granted money situation, you always bring dirt in or take dirt out if you have to, right? Like worst case scenario, like you can always add to it.
To a degree, absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty. I don't know, man. It's pretty cool. It's pretty in depth, and it's something that there's just like as the golfer, we're just lucky. We're just out there walking around on the course, right? We don't really think of like all the different things that go into it, and what it would take to even extend a hole 70 yards like you guys are doing. And then, like for me, like as I'm walking up there and I roll in my double bogey putt, and then I kind of roll up to I'm walking up to the next tee. I just speaking honestly here, and then I kind of walk
right
up
with you.
I walk
Speak
up to
yourself.
I walk up to the hey, I went like birdie and then bogey. I don't know. I had a couple birdies there recently, so it was all right. But so when you kind of like start to see the shape or to see like the vision of it like take place, it's really exciting like for a player, and I assume it's exciting for like you guys as well to be able to see it sort of, you know, start to grow and like evolve. And then there's probably like whenever we're working on a project, whether it's Bryce or like he's in construction as well, and like for me at work, there's kind of that like there's that peak where you hit like that point where you know you're on the downslope now and you're working like towards the finish, and I assume like once you guys started to put that soil in and kind of grade it a little bit, and I think that's probably what you guys are looking at, thinking, okay, we're like really we're really coming to the end of this, or we're really like getting to that point of being like not a finished project or product, but getting there.
That bunker's starting to take shape, and that slope is really showing itself to be like, if you don't carry that bunker, you're gonna be in trouble. Yeah, you start to see how things are gonna punish you and reward you.
I like that, man. Mac, before we let you go, I got one question for you. So if you were to stick a shovel in the ground any course in the world, I think I know what one you're probably gonna say that you could.
No, you can't say it. Anything but Augusta.
Okay, all right. I wasn't even gonna say Augusta, but if there's anyone that you could have an input on, whether it be like, you know, moving a little bit of soil just to say that you've been able to put your name on it, what course would that be?
I
think I know the one that you're thinking about, but he can say that one. I'll accept.
You can say that one. I know my answer, and it won't change.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Would it be St. Andrews?
I was going to say St. Andrews. Yeah.
St. Andrews. Yeah, there's a lot of history there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one that'd be really cool, and I think it has some similarities just in terms of being on the water and having some of those par threes that look out.
What country? What country?
I want to try to the United States. Ocean Course, Kiowa Island.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. Actually, we talked with a guy who's got an apparel company, and he caddied there for like years, or he still is a caddy there.
Way.
So, yeah. So
otherwise, it'd be the National.
Okay. Yeah.
That'd be pretty unreal.
Yeah, I could see that as like an engineering
one Canadian course that's just like it's top notch.
Yeah,
it's top notch.
Yeah, the
Nationals. I forgot what hole it is, but they have such an incredible maple tree or oak tree in the middle of their fairway, and so many people are like, "Wow, why would you have a tree in the fairway?" Well, and people were just saying, "Well, it's a perfect tree."
Yeah.
Why would I get rid of it?
Yeah.
And people don't think that way.
No, I like
golf courses anymore. Get it out of my fairway. It's in my way.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, think of Pebble, man. Pebble 18, right? Like,
yeah.
That tree's going well, I don't know. Some stuff's happened at Pebble. Some stuff's happened at Pebble. I shouldn't say that, but that tree's not.
Trees have moved.
Yeah, it's not being taken down by the management of the course. But you never really know. But that stuff's unique, right? And I like a lot of that stuff at Port Hope. Like on 17, they have that old like trolley cart that comes down the back that like used to come down like where I guess that used to be the first tee deck like way back in the day. So you'd go up, that was a clubhouse or whatever, and you'd get your clubs, you'd go on a trolley, and you'd come down to the first tee deck. Like that's really cool. And you can
back in the 1700s.
Yeah, man. You can still see. You can picture whatever Winston Churchill coming down there or whatever to tee it up, but. And there's even like a piece of like one of the old par threes. I guess it was the old finishing hole or something like that. That's up on the right side of 18. That's where Corey and Sean hit their big slices up there. So it's it's cool, man. It's just cool to like for us to kind of have a look at a course. Like Bryce and I have been golfing forever. You have too, Max. So it's kind of cool to get like your input and the aspect of like somebody really, digging in and tearing it up and kind of what goes into it. So I thought that question asking like the redevelopment of the whole step by step is really cool, man. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, like I could dive into it obviously in a lot more depth and machines used and processes taken and kind of protocols put in by our company to make things efficient and run smoothly and that sort of thing. But I don't know, maybe not everybody wants to hear that.
Hey man, we do cliffhangers, so let's do it again sometimes. We always like to loop back, and we'll definitely. I'm sure there'll be some questions, and maybe even some that we've missed. So maybe once the hole is finished up, so it won't be open this year, right?
No. So we just got some sod down today. We're gonna be putting some more sod down the rest of the week, and starting to grow in that green by seed for the rest of the year. So
there we go. So maybe at the start of the season next year when it gets opened up or something, we'll have you back. We'll chat about it. We'd love to do that, man.
Yeah, or we'll play it. Let's three will play it.
Yeah, let's go play it sometime. Even better, right?
Now we're talking. We're talking.
I like that.
All right, guys.
Well, thanks so much, Mac. This was great, man. I appreciate you kind of giving us a look. This was a neat pod. I don't think there's many people who've done this type of pod, so hopefully anybody who's enjoyed it, give us a listen and go check out. We'll link the Instagram handle in the show notes below. Anybody who wants to go over and check out your guys' work, it's pretty cool. Or if you're at hole number 14 at Port Hope, stop by and say hello.
Yeah, anybody looking to get involved in the golf industry, looking to build some courses, Golf Shape Development. Always growing.
All right, man. Take care. Thanks so much, Mac. This was great.
He's out in my ball in the course where I tee up. I lose the ball and I re-up. I miss a fairway, I probably end up in the ocean or maybe the beach. And I'm on a par 5 and I'm finna go reach it. Second was blind, I ain't see it. Feel like it might be an albatross. Worst case scenario.